What's happening, hardscapers? This is episode 166 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And today's show is brought to you by Inlight Outdoor Lighting. Check them out on Instagram at Inlight Design. That's INLITE, to get some inspiration from their outdoor lighting products, as well as to see more of their lighting products that they offer on the market, as well as Cycle CPA. I don't know if I'm just talking for myself here, but I am overwhelmed with my own bookkeeping at this point in time in the season, and if you are as well, if you need bookkeeping, accounting, or CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Schedule a consultation there and mention the How to Hardscape podcast for $200 off there. We'll talk about more about Inlight and Cycle CPA later in this episode, but for now, we're going to get into an interview with Randy Tumber. Now, I don't get too many questions off in this interview here, so it's more so Randy taking it away here, spilling out a lot of great content here. This is one that you may want to listen to a couple of times, and Randy has also another interview that he would want everybody to check out. You can find that in the show notes if you want to hear more from Randy, get more of his perspectives on natural elements in the landscapes. Check out the show notes for a poolspapro.com link and to see more content there from Randy. And this is a video interview that he's got there. But without further ado, let's turn it over to Randy for today's episode. Today, we're joined by Randy Tumber, aka the Viewmaster. He is the founder of Tumber and Associates Limited, which he has subsequently sold and is no longer affiliated with. But he is affiliated and founder of Tumber International Landscape Training, where he teaches integrating water features into a landscape from the design to build and maintenance, as well as designing and consulting services. Randy, thank you so much for joining us here.
My pleasure.
Randy, let's get started to get to know a little bit more about yourself. Let's get started from the beginning. Where do you get interested in this landscape side of the industry? Where does that initial spark come from? And how does that build into where you start your story in the landscape industry?
Well, I grew up on a beef farm, and so I was involved in horticulture my entire growing up life. And then once I got married and had children, it was a good way that I could employ the skills and the knowledge that I had already had. So I just transitioned into landscaping and very quickly realized that a pickup truck and wheelbarrow and shovel allowed me to open doors that very quickly recognized it was not where I wanted to go. So laying sod, planting shrubs that I didn't really know what was what, cutting grass, things like that. I realized I wanted to do something that had a little more soul to it. So I started to try to learn as much as I could about horticulture, and I very quickly realized that the design was something that appealed to me, and wanted to do something more than the status quo. When I started back in the 70s, I actually had clients say to me, "So, like landscaping, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean landscaping? Like you grade away from the house, you drain away from the house, and then you get some cedar trees and you stick them in the ground, and then you plant some spritzers under the window." And that was their view of landscaping, and a skyrocket Jupiter on either side. So they didn't even call them junipers or Fitzers or whatever. Back then it was sort of, that's landscaping. So I had to start to educate my clients about what there was. And then we started to turn out some projects that were pretty cool, and people started to recognize that. And then as that happens, you get more demand, and then you get a little more exposure, and then it kind of snowballs from there. But one of the biggest things that I found was kind of an aha moment for me. If you'll remember back, some of us remember back to the 70s when there was all this new product from Europe, and it was all the red zigzag lockstone and the Munich and Zurich and all the different fancy types of lockstone that was the rage in the 70s. And then it became kind of like the pea gravel aggregate park benches and garbage cans and pavers and everything. That was the 1980s. And then the 1990s was all the lockstone swirls and circles and fancy patterns. And all the time this was happening, I had the salesman from some of the leading manufacturers knocking on my door and saying, because I was getting quite a bit of exposure through those years. And so they were saying, we'd like you to, kind of endorse our product or start using more of our product. Why don't you use much of our product in your landscape? And I would say, well, quite frankly, I don't like it. I like the natural stone and everything. And well, yeah, but if you use this, and they get the marketing thing all set up, and it made sense. And for a lot of things, it made sense, like for driveways or areas around pools, if it didn't fit in the budget to go with natural stone. But it started to occur to me that these products, I would look at what the architects were cranking out and think, oh man, the leading edge guys, how do I get there? Because I'm always behind. I'm wondering, how can I be on the cutting edge and introduce some of these really cool products? And then it occurred to me that these people don't have a market on creative genius. They are receiving the latest brochures and samples from the manufacturers. And they're saying, oh yeah, this year we've got this, you got to put, oh, this is great. And it's blah, 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 blah. And so the architects would be saying, oh, okay. And the designers, I'm not just picking on architects, but yeah, okay, that's great. We'll start using that. And then I started to realize the creative genius is coming from the manufacturers. And they're just marketing the stuff, and good on them. That's how commerce works. But it didn't appeal to me. I just thought, no, I really like the stuff that isn't transient. So I would be getting people in the late 70s calling and saying, we've got this red zigzag stuff that we put in a few years ago, and we don't like it because it was kind of cool at the time, but it's kind of passé now. How much would you charge to come and take that out and put in something that's not going to go out of style? Well, the only thing that I was used to using that didn't go out of style was natural products, plant material, natural stone, flagstone pavers, and that kind of thing. And I realized that nature is one thing that nobody doesn't love. So it appeals to everybody. And so I started to realize that's the direction I want to go. And I want to distance myself from all the contrived, trendy, passing fads and put something in that is in castles, in the old world castles, or the Romans used, or grand old traditional buildings with traditional architecture that doesn't come and go with every whim of, like, all the flat top houses you see being built now and all the black trim and gray trim and everything. I remember that from decades ago. In California in the 60s, they built these flat top houses and all these architectural statements and everything. And they come and go with the fad. And you start seeing the for sale signs going up after a while. But the traditional architecture transcends all these passing trends and fads. So I started to appreciate that, and I wanted to use that. But the difference is, back a few years ago, you're putting lockstone pavers down for $22 a square foot, but you're putting random flagstone down wet laid with flush mortar joints at like $55 a square foot. So in some cases, they're saying, well, we like the idea for the main entrance and for these key areas and everything, but for just a large terrace around the pool, could we go with some kind of pavers, precast pavers that, yeah, we could. But I kept on telling the manufacturers years ago, I don't like all the trendy looks and everything. If you guys could make it look more like stone and not so trendy, a lot of people don't differentiate between man-made and natural. So then they started coming into the square, rectangle, and the larger sizes. So it didn't look quite so busy, and it started to be acceptable. And now it's used widely, and that's awesome. I'm glad they got away from all the trendy stuff. But we still have to deal with the stainless steel, chrome, glass, the linear, everything has to be square and straight and totally predictable and so contrived looking. That doesn't appeal to me. So after having said that, I don't mean to step on anybody's toes because there's a massive market for that out there. But I do not believe it will stand the test of time. And so I prefer to stay with my silly little idea of using nature or natural aspects, natural design, natural flow, and creating a sustainable ecosystem, whether it's in a terrestrial application or an aquatic application, native habitat restoration, all those kinds of things. These are the kinds of things that I have chosen. And so I live outside, kind of on the hub of the Golden Horseshoe around Toronto. And so if you go an hour, hour and a half northwest or east of Toronto, there's huge country properties out there. And they bought those properties in the country because they appreciate the grade modulations and the contours and the creeks and the cliffs and the forests and the mature 100-foot tall white pine trees that are windswept and looking so beautiful. They bought there because they love that. They want that. And so my niche market that has gone very small now is something that appeals to those people. So my market is small, and I'm good with that because I've been down the road of having a whole bunch of construction crews and maintenance crew and trying to be all things to everybody. And all it did was drive me wild. I never got on site. I would be constantly running ragged, doing sales calls and consultations and proposals and all this kind of stuff. And I realized I hate this. I hate this. I want to be on site. I want to be in the trenches with my men every day. And so I went back to one company, one crew, and that's all we did was high end. And we did everything in-house except for natural gas and electrical. That's by sub-trades elsewhere. And we had good guys that we used for that. The same guys. I believe in long-term relationships. And I still deal with guys that I've been dealing with for 30, 40, 50 years in some cases. And that makes the world go round for me. So I don't like to jump for the cheapest, this, that, or whatever it is. It's long-term. They know what I require. They know what my clients are anticipating. And so they know how to deliver that. And they need to be fairly compensated for that. And my men, I treated my men very well. I tried my level best to be honest and open with them. And I had the hardest time getting and then retaining talent. So if you've got really good men, you treat them like gold. You can get another customer every day of the week, but you don't get another good employee very often. They're hard to come by. So you treat them well, you treat them with respect, with dignity, and you pay them well. So in my summer season, we have in Ontario, we've got arguably 30 weeks a year to earn our living. And so during that time, a lot of my guys are family men. So when we would have a long weekend, because we're seasonal employers, we were not required by law to pay them for the statutory holiday. I chose to pay them for the statutory holiday anyway. Plus, I paid them. So if the Friday was the holiday, I paid them for the Friday. Plus, I paid them for the Monday. And I wanted them to take a 4-day long weekend all season. Plus, in the summertime, we'd have a meeting. We had a safety meeting every Thursday morning, or once a month, Thursday morning at my place, coffee and donuts, and watched videos and did all that. Plus, we had a safety meeting every week, a tailgate meeting with my man. It was all documented and everything like the law requires. But during those meetings, we would say, so guys, what are you thinking about for the summer? We want to shut down for 1 week. And we want everybody to have a holiday and have a life. Go camping, go to the cottage, do whatever. But I paid them for that week. Over and above their holiday pay, I paid them a full week to stay home. And that got me really good employees. And they stayed with me for years. I had 15, 20-year men across the board, and it worked out very well. Another aspect of things that I had come to learn is there's a program called Landscape Management Network, LMN. Mark Bradley is a friend of mine, a gentleman, and a brilliant man. And Mike Lasecki, the guy that's helped him launch this whole software program. those guys, I attended a seminar, and Mark said that at that time, and that was a few years back, his lead foreman was earning six figures, which is great. And he said during the year, he would have his guys come together and talk about budgeting, et cetera, and say, okay, so a crew with this number of guys and this talent and blah, blah, blah should be able to do X number of dollars in sales. Everybody cool with that? Yeah, okay, we're good with that. So that's your goal. So in order for that to happen, here's your overhead factor. So in 30 weeks, if you guys can do that, that's awesome. You earn your pay, you get your marginal bonus, whatever it is. But the example he gave me was, so if I can't remember the specifics, but just for example, if they got their 30 weeks projected sales done in 26 weeks, then they still have arguably 4 weeks left in the season that they could earn a whole bunch more money. So that was the whole point. So now, because the overhead has already been factored into the previous 26 weeks, you've already paid for that. So everything that's coming in now is gravy. So now that gives a chance for Mark, his company, the Beach Gardener at the time, and all the men to share the spoils of this windfall. So he said that I think that year his foreman was earning six figures, and his bonus check that year for one season was $70,000. And then all the other men after them, down from the lead hand to the masons to the carpenters to whatever it is, they all shared a percentage of that as well. So the following season, it was like a bidding war. Everybody wanted to work for that guy that earned this gigantic money. But the other guys were all earning big money too. So everybody was benefiting. And all of a sudden, at the end of the season, you've earned X number of dollars, and you get a bonus check of $5,000 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 50 or 70, whatever it is. You're staying. Guess where you're going back to work next year? Right there. So that was a really good brainstorm that Mark developed. And it also helped to make sure that there wasn't, oh, I forgot the cut quick saw, I'll have to go back to the shop and pick it up. Or let's stop by Tim Hortons and grab a ringer of coffees on our way to the job site. Or I'm just going to whip into town to go to McDonald's to grab lunch. Or I didn't bring my rain gear, or blah, 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 blah. There's so many things that are time wasters. It's dead weight. You're getting paid by the hour, so who cares? Well, when you've got this mentality of the factor that LMN put in place, then the foreman, the lead hand, and all the employees are on the same team. They're all pulling together to try to make that sales goal as early as possible, because that's where the gravy comes in. So that's an incentive for the men. And also, if you've got any dead weight on the crew, they vote him off. Get rid of this loser. This guy's a slacker. We don't want him on board. Or they'll say to him, hey, come on, man, coffee break's over. Get up. Let's go. Come on. So you see, this is a win-win situation. And I give full marks to LMN for promoting that. I know there's other ones out there. I'm not familiar with them, but the incentive thing is something that will help you to gain and retain valuable employees. And the fact that recruiting 365 days of the year is a good thing as well. So that's the employee aspect of things.
I just want to take a break from today's episode to talk about our sponsor, Cycle CPA. You may have a CRM or project management software in place, but what data are you using to ensure your estimating is accurate? Having a proper accounting setup and accurate bookkeeping done is key to understanding overhead expenses and other costs that must be recouped in your estimates. Cycle CPA is a remote bookkeeping and CFO firm that helps to connect the dots from the financial reports to the hardscape and landscape data needed in order to reach high profits. They provide landscape and hardscape industry benchmarking, job costing, financials by service line, advisory meetings, and much more. Cycle CPA's team of accountants are specialized within the hardscape and landscape industry, and you can visit them at cyclecpa.com, and for $200 off, mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Now back to our episode. We also want to say thank you to Inlight for sponsoring today's episode. Did you know that one of the easiest ways to grow your hardscape business and increase your revenue is by incorporating low voltage outdoor lighting to your projects? Using lighting can take your projects to the next level, make you more profit, and add that wow factor and make your business stand out. As a professional hardscaper, we know you need reliable and high quality products to avoid callbacks and wasted time on job sites. That's why Inlight offers some of the highest quality lights and is the quickest system to install on the market. Their patented Easy Lock connector ensures that lighting will be the easiest thing you install every time. No heavy lifting, no massive machinery, just plug and play. Not only that, but Inlight also provides many educational resources like online and in-person training, installation videos, unbeatable customer support, and more. Everything you need to successfully take your business to the next level with outdoor lighting and beyond. It's one of the many reasons why I stand behind Inlight and many other companies that provide these educational resources to their clients, to contractors, and to help us grow our businesses. So for more information on how Inlight can help grow your business, check them out on Instagram at Inlight Design. That's at INLITE Design on Instagram. DM them to find out how to put more money in your pocket this season. Randy, you covered so many different topics there. Thank you so much for that. Everything from why you kind of lean towards that natural aspect in your business to employees with LMN there, and so many different questions came to mind for me there, but you kept on answering them as you continued there. So thank you so much for that. Even how you find clients and you recognize, on the outskirts of the city where people that kind of leaned, the reason why they bought those homes was that they lean to those natural aspects, which just makes sense that that's your ideal clientele. How long did it take for you to kind of get that ball rolling to become really known as the natural landscape design guy and build guy? Like, in terms of like a timeline, or was there a certain project that kind of put you over that hump where people really looked to you yourself as that natural landscape design guy?
I think what I tried to do right from the very beginning was to try to promote a prosperous corporate image. So I wanted people to have confidence in what I was doing. And then I became a member of Landscape Ontario Horticultural Trades Association, which is also a member of Canadian Nursery Landscape Association. I'm also a member of the Pool and Hot Tub Council of Canada, and the same with the Pool and Spa Association in the States. And I'm a member of ISA, the Arborist Society of Arborists of America. I am trying my best to become recognized as a professional in the industry. And so I was very proud to put those logos or decals on my equipment, on all of my equipment, on all of my signs, and promote the organization, the associations as much as possible, because that's the only way you really have a delineating between Smitty's Landscaping and Restaurant Supply or somebody who's legit. And landscaping, if you got your dad's truck and wheelbarrow, it's pretty easy to get into and out of. So lots of college guys will do that, and good on them. But like airline pilots, firemen, guys like that will do that on the side, and that's fine too. But to try to convey the concept that you are a duly qualified professional. And I did do the exams, and I did receive my international designation as a certified landscape designer, as a member of the Association of Professional Landscape Designers in the States, and that's worldwide. And also, I'm a certified landscape designer through Landscape Ontario, Canadian Nursery Landscape Association, as well as a certified horticultural technician and ISA member, et cetera. So these are the kinds of things that I tried to do as a periphery of professionalism. But I also wrote articles for magazines. I received a lot of coverage in the media. We won a lot of awards. By being members of some of these associations, you could win awards and received lots of media attention. And in through the pool and hot tub associations in the States or in Canada or the landscape associations, I've been able to receive lots of awards and provincially, nationally, and internationally. So when you start to get that, you start to get a lot of exposure, and then you start to get demand. People start reaching out. I'd like to talk to this fellow. And so then when you go there, I didn't go there with a slick sales pitch or anything. I just went there very sincere, very genuine. I brought along my portfolio, which is now electronic, but at the time I had a great big leather carrying case with gigantic photo album sort of thing. But it was an opportunity for me to allow my clients to see the potential, because a lot of times they have an idea of what they'd like to have. So what I would do is I would spend time with them and talk with them and find what it was they're looking for. Okay, so you've got this property, you've got rolling hills, you've got this, you got that. On arrival, as soon as I would pull in the lane, I would start to do an evaluation, a visual evaluation, and immediately start to see things that appealed or see things that were red flags. And so I had to make a mental acknowledgement of each one of those things, because if I looked at something for 30 seconds, I all of a sudden looked right through it and I lost my objectivity. And that's the advantage I have over my clients. So if I pull in and I see a big fancy set of ornate gates and they're jammed right up against the asphalt and I feel like I'm going to tear my mirrors off, to me, that's like, oh my goodness, this is in your face. Hey, everybody, look at me. And so we all walk that fine line between ostentatious and understated elegance. And the vast majority of my clients would choose the latter. They didn't want to everybody look at what I've got. They didn't want the house on the hill. I talked them into putting the house in the hill or just slightly obscured and anyway, kind of getting off here. So when I'm pulling in, those gates would be something that I would like to address. Or if there was a vista that was off to the side, oh man, that's spectacular. We've got to capitalize on that. And so just like in good photography, you can look at something from a certain vantage point, but if you put the frame around it, you frame the view, now all of a sudden you have the advantage of depth perception. So if you see a grove of cedars or white pine or a stand of birch or trembling aspen over on a meadow, above a meadow on the far side, then you might want to pull some of them up closer to the foreground so that you're looking through 3 or 4 birch, a grove of little birch trees there, to see that big stand of birch way back over. That's a backdrop of evergreens that really makes them pop. So things like that, I would say, okay, that's something I want to build on. And this is something over here that I don't like. I think they need to, or when I would drive in, the worst of all, I hate it. You see people building, as we're talking right this minute, there's custom home builders that are fine craftsmen, and they've had architects design a beautiful home and all the best materials, cedar shakes, copper flashings, baked clay brick, hand-tooled stone sills and mantles, and all, the best of everything. But you drive in, and where do you go? To the garage, because they've got some goofy idea for a driveway, and you drive around and you have to park sideways in front of the garage doors. There's 4 bays of garages, but there isn't enough room between there and the garage door to be able to make a proper radius to drive in or back out. So you got 5 cars parked hodgepodge sideways in front of the garage for one reason. They didn't do there's 3 things that I do in a landscape when I do a landscape design. Number 1, it has to function. It has to be workable. That includes vehicle flow, which translates to pedestrian flow. When I pull into the bum of the house, which is the garage, I drove past this beautiful entrance, and they spent all this money and they labored over what kind of door they wanted to have and what kind of embellishments around the door and frame the door and all the blah, 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 blah. Who cares? I don't get to see that because I'm at the garage. So now what do? I go, the closest door is the one, oh, that goes into the laundry room. How do you like that on your $4 million house? Your guests come into the laundry room. Hello, you didn't do your site planning properly. So then you find out, well, who laid the driveway out like this? Oh, I don't know. It was, ask that guy. And you ask and you ask, and then you find out it was the bulldozer operator. You go, what? Yeah. The day the culvert arrived from the building guys, the guy comes over and he says, I got this bill. I got a culvert for you. Oh, yeah, just kick it off in the ditch over there. Okay. So he takes the straps off, rolls it off the truck, it rolls into the ditch, and the gravel starts to arrive. And the dozer guy says, yeah, just dump it all in the culvert there. He just did the site plan. What? Are you kidding me? And the vehicle flow doesn't work with beans. That means the pedestrian flow is now challenged. And it just doesn't make any sense. The other thing, where we live in central Canada, southern Ontario, our prevailing winds are out of the northwest largely. And so site planning 101, you do not buy a lot on the downwind side of an intersection or the downwind side of a highway, because you get noise, you get dust, you get pollution, you get smell, you get everybody's garbage they throw out the window, or your neighbor's garbage, the recycling box blew over or got hit by a car, and all the garbage blows onto your property. So if you think of back in old world times, the Industrial Revolution dictated a lot of, and even prior to that, a lot of people wanting to live in the northwest sector of the community, because downtown you had all the coal factories and all the stinky smoke stacks, and you had the livery stables with the horses and the manure and all the industrial noise and the smell of steel mills and everything, and that was all blowing downwind. So that's where the poor people lived. So the wealthy people lived in the upwind sector. So when you're doing a site plan, a lot of times people will engage me to help them with site selection. So I will always take one on the upwind side as much as possible, because that way you don't have to worry about salt spray killing all the junipers out at the entry plantings or wrecking everything. Like if you ever see pine and fir and cedars burnt brown, the bottom 15, 20 feet burnt right off them, because they're on the downwind side of the road and they get that salt spray all winter, and it just kills them, just ruins them. But you pick things like white spruce. Here in Ontario, we've got white spruce that are quite resilient to salt spray. They'll take quite a bit, but you're still better to be upwind. So if you're on the upwind side, and then you've got good presentation for your home, for the entrance and everything, but don't put your garage doors facing north, unless you like having your car frozen rock solid till 4:30 in the afternoon. I remember a place that we lived in, our garage doors faced west. We bought the place like that. And my truck would still be frozen at 4:30. I'd have to go out on a sales call, and I'd be out there chipping with the ice scraper, getting rid of ice and snow and everything. Plus, every time I open the garage door, I have snowmobiles and my Harley Davidson parked in there, and snow's blowing in on them every time I open the door. So this is bogus. And I'm looking at my son's car out the front of the house on the south side, and his car at 9:30 in the morning is steaming. Beautiful. All the snow's melted. The interior's nice and warm. And I just think, oh my goodness, don't face your doors to the west or the north, because you're going to be in a shadow all day till the afternoon, and it just doesn't work. So vehicle flow, number one, it's got to work. And pedestrian flow, it's got to flow easily. So you put the guest parking in an area that relates to the front door, and then you bring the sidewalk over to them, and you fan it out nice and wide, as 12, 14 feet wide. So you've got a generous receiving area. So you project that feeling of warmth and hospitality, and you remove all the questions, and then you plant evergreens, so spruce trees or whatever, off the corner of the house for a number of reasons. But one is so that when your guests arrive, they don't have the option of seeing what is behind that spruce tree, which is your private parking area and whatever things you have back there. That's your personal space. Your guest should arrive, park at the guest area, which is adjacent to the entrance of your main entrance where you want to receive, and anything beyond that is by invitation only. But you put evergreens off the other corners of the house because it gobbles up wind swirl. so nicely. Evergreens will eat the wind. So if you're in a windy environment, you use things like grade modulations to start to deflect the wind up. But then you plant evergreens on and down it so that you can absorb that wind. So you can create buffers, and you can also install snow drop zones. So we live in a snow environment. If you put a bunch of spruce trees on the upwind side of your driveway, in January, you're going to be out there with a chainsaw because you just ended up with 6 feet of snow in your driveway every time you get a blow. But if you put them farther away, then you can create a snow drop zone before it gets to your driveway. Like there's things like that that go into proper site planning on a country estate or a country property for that matter. So number one, it needs to be functional. Number two, it needs to be realistically maintainable. And the snow drop zone and things of that nature all dovetail into the realistically maintainable. You could have the most spectacular landscape in the world, but if you're enslaved to maintaining it, whether you do it yourself or you engage a contractor to come and do it for you, it just makes sense to make it efficient and easy to maintain. So mowing strips along, if the grass comes to the edge of the house anywhere along there, just put a 12 by 18 or 12 by 24 paver on top of a little bit of HPB, which is like fractured pea gravel. So it doesn't move, it locks together, but you put that on top of non-woven geotextile, and I emphasize non-woven because woven geotextile, the weeds will just grow right through the weaving. But non-woven geotextile, and then an inch or two of HPB or some permeable drainage stone, and just a 2 or 3% slope away from the building. Now you have a mowing strip all along where the grass meets the house. It's flush, it's not really visible, but it works very well. And then you have your beds all flowing. You eliminate awkward corners, so your entire project can be maintained with a riding mower. And you mulch 2 feet out beyond the drip line of the evergreen trees so that you can cut them with a riding mower. And the entire thing is maintainable with a riding mower, whether you do it or a contractor does it. He doesn't need to bring somebody for push mowers. He doesn't need to bring people with weed eaters. He just brings his lawnmower and does the 90-mile-an-hour grass cutting around your property, and away he goes. But don't cut the bottom branches off the evergreen trees, off the spruce trees particularly. We call them the money branches. So if you have a 50-foot white spruce or Colorado blue spruce or something in your yard, and a car goes out of control and smashes in and breaks off a bunch of branches off the bottom of it, his insurance company is liable to replace it or make good. So of course they're going to say, well, we'll give you $5,000 cash. You go, no. I want that tree fixed. Well, you can't bolt the branches back on or graft them on or whatever. So that means the tree has to be replaced. So where do you find a 50-foot Colorado blue spruce specimen? Where do you find one? You phone a specialty guy, and he's going to tell you, okay, and he'll come in and quote you arguably $40,000 to $70,000, $80,000 to replace that tree, because you've got to find one, you've got to negotiate to buy one off somebody, and then you've got to hire a specialty crew to come and do a ball on it and do the transplant. And there's companies that do that all day, every day, with the big Southern live oaks down in states and all over the place. You see them on LinkedIn all the time. But they're spectacular what they're able to do with 100-ton root balls and stuff like that. But get out your checkbook, because you need police escorts. You need electrical company to raise the wires or temporarily take the wires down. You need cranes at both ends. You need massive equipment to haul them. And you've got to, it's got to be supplied, installed, staked, fertilized, and guaranteed. So that 40, 50, 70, 80, $100,000 tree has to be guaranteed. It's got to live. So when you cut the bottom branches, those money branches off that tree, you take the bottom 6 feet off that tree, you've rendered that tree valueless. That is now poor quality firewood. It has a net worth of 0. But with those money branches on it, you mulch 2 feet beyond that, and you don't go anywhere near that. So you're not brushing up against that tree every week for 30 weeks of the year during the tender growing expansions time. Because you've seen evergreen trees that are pyramidal shaped, and then when they get down around shoulder height on a tractor, they start to go back in underneath. And that's when the guys get out the chainsaws, just cutting the branches off. Irreparable damage. So don't do stuff like that. So back to realistically maintainable, if you eliminate little corners and you make things so that they're smooth flowing lines and you calculate that based on the turning radius of the tractor, you can create something that's incredibly easy to maintain and reduce the massive lawn monoculture of useless turf. There's areas where grass is nice, but if you've got a gigantic open lawn space and you cut down all the trees and you fragment all those little former environmental sensitive areas, and that used to be a sustainable ecosystem, now there's one about 3/4 of a mile over there to the right, and there's one 2 blocks over here to the left, and everybody's cut everything else down and put up the occasional little token tree here and there, but the rest they've got this massive area of lawn. In most communities now, you become public enemy number one, because everybody, all your neighbors know you're using chemicals on your lawn in our neighborhood. And you're using our water. It's not your water, just your tap. You pay for it, so what? It comes out of our collective aquifers. So these are the kinds of things we're trying to promote. Reduce the size of this large, gigantic monoculture that used to be the way forward. It's not anymore. It's not environmentally sustainable. So stop that. Reduce it and plant up areas to create corridors for all the beautiful creatures in creation to be able to come through and connect from this ecosystem to that ecosystem. And it's the right thing to do. So again, back to review. Number one, it has to be functional. Number two, realistically maintainable. But number three, it has to be attractive, and in that order. The most beautiful landscape that's impossible to maintain is useless. So when you incorporate all those things in and you help the person and they say, no, this is the house we want to build on this lot. We want this house. Okay, that's fine. Mirror it, reverse it. What? Now your garage doors face the south. Now your front entrance faces east. Your back of your house faces west. And if you rotate it just like 2 or 3 degrees, now guess what? Your children will wake up with the sun in their bedroom every morning for the rest of the time they live there. What a beautiful thing is that? And it didn't cost you a dime. And so there's so many things like that that you can do. You want to be able to sit out and have your morning coffee on the front porch, or a little sunken terrace out at the front or whatever, and the peace and calm, and listen to the birds and visit with your family. You want to be able to sit out on the back deck or a little Romeo and Juliet balcony off the second floor of the master bedroom. You want to be able to enjoy a glass of wine on a warm summer evening and watch the sun go down. These are beautiful things, and it doesn't cost any more to do it properly, as opposed to do it, like I said a while ago, as we're talking, there's some custom home builder who is a fabulous builder, quality craftsmanship, honesty, integrity, on and on it goes, but he's building the wrong thing in the wrong place. But it's a beautiful structure, but with just a little massage here and there, it can be so beautifully integrated into the landscape. And that's another subject altogether, integration. So if you take a gigantic home and you plop it on a hill, it will look like somebody plopped a gigantic home on the hill. And it's one of these, hey, everybody, look at me, look what I've got. But if you subtly integrate that home into the hill, and you've got rolling hills and berms and swales and contours and groves of trees that are native and natural, and they've got so much to offer, and you've created a sustainable ecosystem in a former meadow or forest or whatever it is. You have taken the most foreign of elements, which is a house. It doesn't belong in a natural setting, but you've taken it and you've integrated it very nicely into a natural setting. And then you've embellished the setting all around it, taking in things into consideration. Okay, yeah, vehicle flow, does that? Yeah, that works. Vehicle flow works perfect. We can do a perfect 3-point turn and exit. Vehicle flow works good. The guests come in where they want. Nobody gets to see what's around the back because that's our own personal space, unless they're invited. And it's absolutely beautiful. And it's not trendy. It's not going to go out of style in 10 years or 20 or 50 years. I have clients that are still calling me for phase 8 on a project that we originally did back in the mid 70s, and we're still building on it, and it's wonderful. So those are the kinds of things that you want to do. I would say the number one thing that I hear from almost every single one of my clients is, yeah, we got the foundations put in and we're just starting to build, and so we want to get you involved right up front. And I just think, oh my goodness, here we go again. And so after we talk about it, and then I say, so you see what's happened now, your garage doors open into the snow and the wind, and now your children aren't going to have the benefit of this and that and da 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 da. If and these everybody says, I wish I'd have called you sooner. Everybody says that. And if I had a dollar for every time I've been told that, man, oh man, life would be good. So those are things that are part of a site plan. So when I sit down with a client, I need to get to know them. I'm not about to deal through a general contractor or an architect or anybody else. Negatory. I am going to deal with the homeowner, and I want both parties there. Otherwise, you end up going through the whole thing twice. So both parties are there. I want to sit down with them. Typically, we'll sit down and we'll have a beer, a glass of wine, or whatever it is, and we'll spend hours talking together. And I need to find out what motivates them, what it is they're looking for, what they want out of life. What is your family situation? Children, what are their ages? What sexes are they? What about pets? What are their sexes? What pets are there? And what do you see? Is it an equestrian application? Are you going to run livestock? Are you going to have a tennis court, a swimming pool, a hot tub? All these amenities these are things that should be thoroughly investigated. But I always encourage my clients to dream big. I know that's very cliche, but I've actually been taken to task by architects about that, because the customer is always right. And I do not agree with that. The customer is entitled to have what he's going to be paying for. But this is something that, as professional landscape designers, we do every single day for decades. This homeowner may have had one or two previous homes, but usually not custom homes to the caliber where they're prepared to engage a guy like me. So don't sit there and give me a list of orders that you want me to throw some prices at. We need to research this and flesh out the details. Okay, so the first thing is, I used to sit there and listen, and they would say, no swimming pool. We had a swimming pool when I was younger. I hated it. I will never have a swimming pool the rest of my life. And I would say, okay, stroke out the swimming pool. Then after a while, I started thinking, wait a minute. When I started to realize, no, the customer isn't always right. And I'm not trying to be bold or ignorant or arrogant or anything. I believe that the customers sometimes need a little bit of education, respectful, discreet education. So after a while, I got to the point, after hearing so many horror stories, I said, okay, stop right there. Let me describe your pool. Well, you've never been there before. How would you know? Okay, so your pool is roughly 20 by 40, right? Yep. Rectangle, right? Yep. 8 or 9 feet deep, right? Yep. And it had patio pavers on all four sides, all the way around, for about 36 inches wide, right? Yep. And then you had a chain link fence all the way around that, right? Yep. And it was just over the hill and through the dale to get to. You had to pack a lunch to go there to use it, right? Yep. And it cost way too much money to heat, so your dad wouldn't pay for the heating bills. So the pool was always freezing cold, right? Yep. And you had to maintain it, right? Yep. And you hated it because you were isolated way over there. And it's, come on, Dad, I just did it last week. You got to do it again. Sorry. No wonder you don't want a pool. I'd hate one too. Let me show you this picture. Boom. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, guess what? It's 12 by 24 lunge pool. We don't need massive, gigantic vessels here in an environment where the temperature gets from 10 below zero to 40 below zero, or anything where you have to close the pool on Thanksgiving and then open it up May 24 weekend or whatever day it is. I get people showing me pictures of this swimming pool. This is what I want. And I say, okay, do you like $2,000 a month to heat it? What? Yeah. And that's before the price increases. No way, no way. Yeah, no way, of course. But do you like the idea of having something like this? And you show them a picture of a smaller vessel, larger terrace, and say, when the last time you went to a pool party, did you go in the water? And they look at their wives and they kind of grin and they go, no. Who did go in the water? Mostly the kids and the odd hot dog saying, hey, watch me do a cannonball off the diving board. Most people want to be poolside, or the ladies will hang their legs in the water and have the glass of wine and visit and socialize and all that kind of. People want to be poolside, but not necessarily in the pool. But when you do want to use the pool, you want to be able to have fun and everything, but not necessarily a diving pool. So if you there's a little give and take there, because if you have to sacrifice being able to dive into your swimming pool, but then you border that off. Well, this pool will still fit 12 or 14 people, and it's still like 5.5, 6 feet deep. So you can still do cannonballs. The kids can run and splash and jump and do whatever. But you got theater seating in one end of the pool, and the molded stairs wrapping around. And then you can set up a movie screen on the on the raised deck back there, and invite all your neighbors over for movie night. And they come with their bathing suits, and the kids are in splash and everything, and the lights come on at night, and it's like Disney. But you watch a movie there, and they got surround sound speakers in the garden, and people are sitting up in the cabana by the bar watching the movie. People are sitting around the curved seating at multiple levels. People are sitting at the sunken terrace, at the fire pit, and they're all watching the movie, and they can all hear with perfect because of the surround sound in the gardens with the speakers. And you say, guess what? You can do this 365 days a year. What? You don't close the pool? Nope. What? You leave the pool open? How can that happen? You know, it's about $150 a month on average, based on pre-price increase like 6 months ago, prices of natural gas, etc. And so you leave the pool around 40 degrees thereabouts, and you don't have to open it, you don't have to close it, you just leave it. And the ground temperature is arguably 52, 3, 4 degrees all the time. So that's maintaining some temperature, but you don't want to go swimming when it's that cold, but you just want to keep it from freezing going in the skimmer. And that's how you do it. So when you get a call from buddies, hey, I just get in from Vancouver. I'm in town for the weekend. I was going to swing by. Yeah, come on, you're staying at our place. We're going to have a ball. Okay, great. I'll be there about 5 o'clock tonight. Okay, thanks. So then he takes out his smartphone and he goes, doo, 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 and we've already done the math, calculated the number of gallons in the pool, and instead of 25,000 gallons, you've got like 6,000 gallons in this little lunge pool. And so we oversize the pump, the heater, the filter, so that, like, massive oversizing, because it's a little bit more upfront, but you reap the benefits moving forward. So instead of having to backwash your pool and dumping 200, 300, 400 gallons of water every week out on the grass or down the curb into the rivers, into our lakes, you don't do that anymore. You use a cartridge filter and you hose it out on the grass, and it filters into the lawn, and that's it. And you do that once or twice a year. That's it. And you've got a gigantic filter, a vessel that size would take 150,000 BTUs. We put in a 333,000 BTU cartridge filter, which is crazy overkill. A 400 square foot cartridge filter and a 333,000 BTU pool heater. You hardly ever have to do anything to them, and a variable speed pump, variable frequency drive. So you hook that all in there, but you put a bypass in there in case you want to swim lengths. Because the big objection is people say, yeah, but I don't want a short pool because I want to swim lengths. My wife used to be an Olympic swimmer, or whatever it is. Okay, so we'll put swim jets in for you. You hit your phone, you touch the button, and the valves go, and it automatically bypasses the salt chlorine generator, the heater, and the filter, and it goes directly in from the intakes. It even bypasses the skimmer. The big intake that you have on below the return jets, and it goes through the pump and directly out the returns. And so that's great. So now you can put the swim jets on in the pool, and the people can swim at their leisure and do the front crawl all day long until they're sick of it, and then they just hit return, and it goes back to normal heat, filter, chlorinate, sanitation, and it's all automatic off your smartphone. But I had one client who I always try to stay in touch with my clients. I have very good relationships with them for decades and decades. But this one guy called him about a year afterwards, and I said, so How are you finding the pool? Oh, it's great. Everything you did, the whole thing, you hit a home run with everything, Randy. We love it all. You caught every point that we wanted. We love it all. My only complaint is that my wife loves the swim jets, but I can outswim them. So I said, okay. So I talked to the rep from the company that I deal with. He said, okay, let's make a site visit. So we went site visit and we programmed in speed number 2. So this is his speed. So now he hits that and we've got 7-inch waves in his pool. And it'll like blow him to the other end of the pool. But the beauty is his buddy phones from Vancouver and he's going to be there at 5 o'clock. So the owner just types in, okay, he knows with the oversized pump, heater, filter, salt chlorine generator that we've got here, he knows that he can get anywhere from arguably 6, 7, 8, 9 degrees per hour with the overkill heaters and everything. And so he knows by 5 o'clock when he rolls in, and here in Ontario, that's dark by then, when his buddy rolls in and he rolls in and they go walking into the backyard, there's steam flying. His pool's 95 degrees and there's snow all over the place. And it's awesome. And he can have winter parties. He can do whatever he wants. But then when it's finished, he just turns it off and it goes back to 40 degrees again. And all he wants to do is keep it from freezing going into the skimmer and just keep the thing circulating slowly. And with a variable frequency drive technology on the pumps now, and we use all stay right everything, but with that technology, it will ramp back down. And instead of the pump running 3,500 RPM and just using hydro like electricity like crazy, and then finally taking out the impeller or burning out bearings or whatever it is, this thing spends the vast majority of its life at between 900 and 1100 RPM. So it's just idling through its life. And so your energy, you've slowed the water flow down by 50%, your energy consumption drops by 85%. So this is an extremely efficient way to put something like this in. And not only that, I have yet to replace one in, I think, 12, 14, 15 years. I've yet to replace one part on one of those variable frequency drive pumps because they could last for 30 years. We don't know yet. The technology hasn't been out there long enough. But I've taken that technology, and I also attended a seminar at the Pool Spa Patio Expo in Las Vegas. I speak there regularly. But the lady that designed the Bellagio fountains all choreographed the music and everything there, which is world class. And I was able to learn a lot about that and take that between that and what the Pentair technology was putting together and apply that to create residential scale water features. So now I build ponds and lakes and rivers and streams and waterfalls and aquatic sustainable ecosystems with gravel shoals and vertical rock structure, depending on the species. If you're putting in bass or if you're putting in rainbow trout, you got to have a stream for them to swim up and spawn in. Same with walleye or salmon. But if you use bluegill or bass or speckled trout, they will reproduce in a closed environment. But you've got to put feeder fish, you've got to put prey fish in there for the predators, because the top predator is going to start eating down and cannibalizing until he runs out of food, and then he'll just throw himself to death, and that's the end of it. But if you put habitat underwater and you create those deep holes and you contour the bottom and you have the rock shoals and the gravel spawning beds for the bass and you've got vertical structure, anybody that fishes knows bass like to school where there's vertical structure, and walleye too. So you create those things and you create a sandy beach area, and you put an area for water lilies and arrowhead and pickerelweed and iris, and you have to use those things, and the carex, the sedges and things. You've got to create a sustainable ecosystem below the surface as well as at the surface and above the surface. So you've got the emergent plants, the ones that are right on the edge, the ones that are slightly like water lilies, you plant them 18 inches below or whatever. And then you've got the sedges along the edge and the iris, and on it goes. But you create that sustainable ecosystem, and overall, and you even have Lots of times we'll take a great big cedar tree or something because they'll last till the cows come home, and we'll submerge them in the pond, or when it's dry, we'll put them in there. We'll put a great big huge boulder on top of the trunk to hold them down. Otherwise, they'll float inevitably. But all those roots and all those branches provide a haven for all the little minnows, and you put native minnows in there first. Basically, you seed the pond with all the prey fish, and you put in the crayfish, and you put in the invertebrates, and you put in the turtles and all that kind of stuff. And then you gradually start introducing some of the next stage predator fish. And then you introduce the bass or whatever you're going to put in there ultimately. But you give the prey fish an opportunity to establish their own sustainable ecosystem. So they've got habitat and various places and rock shoals where they can get in amongst the rocks, and the crayfish have some place to go. Otherwise, they're just going to get eaten up in no time, and then the cannibalism starts. So those are the kinds of things that we do when we're trying to establish something like that. But the beauty of it is we will create a biological filter. So I won't get into the short strokes of that because it's something that I have designed on my own, and I'm happy to train people to do, but I'm not about to do that for free. So we have a biological intake, and then we have an equalizer line, and we have a pump chamber. And the pump chamber is down in 8 feet of ground, which is, again, arguably 52, 3, 4 degrees, 365 days of the year, regardless of where you live. And we have a submersible pump down there, and it pumps it up the waterfalls, gravity flow down, and then you create in such a way that it creates a circulation in the pond, a flow. And so you don't have any dead areas of destratified water. So you draw the water from down low in the water column, and then it recirculates through the whole thing. So you're aerating and oxygenating the entire pond, plus the biological filtration that it goes through. All that water flowing through the intake and the discharge is all inoculated with by the desirable bacteria that colonizes on the edge of the media that is in those two locations. So it works very well. But the beauty of it is it's frost free year round. Never have to take it out. Again, VFD technology, and it works fabulous. I have lakes and ponds that I've done in the mid-90s that have run nonstop. Back in the day, we used a little giant pump, and they were low efficiency sludge pump, 3-inch intake, 3-inch discharge. And they were great. They were like zero maintenance. But after 7, 8, 9 years, they're running at 3,500 RPM. They're drawing 17 amps. So it's costing you like $12,000, $14,000 a year to run your waterfalls, and then they burn out. So then you pay $1,200 and you throw another pump in, and it goes for another few more years. But the time your electrical meter is just going haywire, either that or you shut it off. Well, you can't shut it off because you've got all the aquatic ecosystem flowing downstream through the waterfalls and everything. If they dehydrate and dry out, all your desirable bacteria that has been colonizing all of those rocks starts to dry out and die off. And then next day you turn it back on. So some of them will come back to life, but all the invertebrates and everything, they're done. So it has to run all the time. So the way to do that is you ramp it down. And again, you slow the flow by 50%, you drop your energy consumption by 85%. So instead of $14,000 a year, you're looking at like $1,800 a year. And you can get even more flow because you can program it to, okay, I want it on Friday evening, I want it on Saturday afternoon and evening, and I want it on Sunday afternoon and evening. And so you set it, okay, instead of drawing 17 amps round the clock, it's during showtime, it's up running at 8 amps. And instead of pumping 200 gallons a minute, you get 260 gallons a minute out of that same pump. And then when that time is up, it just goes back to, not to sleep, but it goes back down to idle. So now it's running about 1,000 RPM, and it's using 3 amps. So things are, wow, this is astronomical, and it's functional, and it's year round, and it's frost proof. These are the kinds of things that I developed over the years, and that I'm happy to train people on. And I found that those are the systems that make people want to call me, because I am not aware of anybody else that knows how to do that.
Randy, I think you need your own podcast. You are an excellent, excellent speaker. You should be taking over this here. That was incredible. I've got one more question that I definitely want to ask you besides this here. Where have you attained this wealth of knowledge that you have, that you're so fluent at kind of letting us know everything that you've learned over the years? Is this like a matter of trial and error over the years to be able to find like the best solutions, going to conferences, books? Really quickly, you don't have to spend a lot of time on this because I don't want to take up a lot of your time here, but where have you gained this wealth of knowledge over the years?
From a horticultural perspective, I hired a lot of Europeans because the European apprenticeship system puts ours to shame. North American apprenticeship system is woefully inadequate. Although I must say, from a horticultural perspective, Landscape Ontario has really, and Canadian Nursery Landscape Association has really put a push on to promote apprenticeship and to promote horticulture as a career, a desirable career, not a stepping stone to a real job, but an absolute career where you can buy a home and you can raise a family and you can have a life. That's a great thing, but you have to have the knowledge and the knowledge and the experience. And if you're working for a company that doesn't really have anybody that knows how to do much other than build retaining walls and lay slabs down, when it comes to horticulture, they're hurting. And so how are they supposed to train anybody after them? And you start talking in terms of Latin. What are you talking about? Well, when you go to order some plant material, you want to order a type of juniper. There's like a gazillion of them. Hosta, there's a Canadian Hosta Society. There's thousands of types of hosta. So you have to know the specific kind. You don't say, I want a red Japanese maple. You say, I want Acer, palmatum, dissectum, atropurpureum. So Acer is maple. Palmatum is, you think of palm, like the palm of your hand. That's what the leaf is shaped like, palmatum. Dissectum, you want the cut leaf. Atropurpureum means you want the red one, the purple. So when you use Latin, which is the international language of horticulture, I've had Italian, Portuguese, Dutch, Swiss, German, you name it. I've had them all contact me about work, and as soon as I talk to them, I know right away. Oh yeah, these guys did their apprenticeship in Europe. When they tell you they're a master landscaper, they are a walking encyclopedia. So I surrounded myself with those guys, and I learned so much from them. And I learned the Latin, and I studied the Latin, and I use Latin in my plant orders all the time. And when I talking to my clients to help to explain, because a lot of times it's actually a description. Like you think of a pagoda dogwood, Cornus alternifolia. So Cornus is the dogwood family, alternifolia, alternating foliage. So thus the nickname pagoda dogwood. Well, that explains a whole bunch. So there's so many things that it's so far superior than using the generic. Like if I asked my grandmother, what's that plant over there? She'd say, oh, that's myrtle. And somebody else would say, no, that's periwinkle. Well, the Latin name is, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank here. Anyway, Vinca minor. So as soon as you say that, whether it's a Dutchman or a German or a Frenchman or whatever it is, everybody knows you're talking about, yeah, those little glossy green invasive leaf ground covers with the beautiful purpley colored flowers. Everybody knows that. So those are the kinds of things that I made it a plan to learn. And every spring I have to relearn it because I haven't used it much over the winter. But I just get involved in it, and I tour the nurseries every chance I get and get good relationships with growers. And that's something that goes a long way. And you know you're going to get quality plant material. And I personally go and pick every single plant for every single project that I have ever done. I will not accept an order where I've had to email, or in the old days, fax in an order, and then they would get their people, their students or their staff or whatever, to pick the order and assemble it and then ship it to me. or I'd just go and show up and pick it up there. Sorry, there's way too much pro and con about that. And I will personally go down there and I see, okay, I wanted to put that beautiful pagoda dogwood in place, but I noticed the ones they've got there aren't spectacular. But I noticed this Florida dogwood, this Cornus Florida, it looks awesome. It'll do the job beautifully. Okay, I'm going to substitute that. And I explain to the people and I make provision with the plantings that correspond with that. But that's how I do that. And I make sure that I'm getting the absolute best of each one. If I need 15 hydrangea or 20 spreading junipers, I'm not going to take a juniper with a little bit of brown in it or a broken branch or whatever, because I'm not throwing them on a skid and shipping them. I'm picking them myself. And when I get them, I plant them in the ground and I use a growth hormone called Super Thrive, which is phenomenal. And I take every single shrub out of the pot and I submerge it in a 5-gallon pail with a cup of Super Thrive mixed into the water. And I submerge it and hold it underwater until the bubbles stop. And then I take it out and I plant it in the pre-dug hole and backfill it. And I mean, even before that, we had a less than 2% replacement ratio. But with this stuff, it's just phenomenal. But it's a great system, and it works really well. I'm trying to think of where I should go from here.
Don't worry about that, Randy. This I have already overextended the amount of time here that I've wanted. I mean, I appreciate all the time, all the wealth of knowledge that you've kind of put on this podcast here. I do have one last question before I let you go. What is one thing you know now that you wish you knew from the very beginning, whatever that might be, but what is that one thing you know now that you wish you knew from the beginning?
I think the LMN thing that we talked about for a variety of reasons. I'm the world's worst businessman, and Mark Bradley will tell you that. But everything I do is from the heart. So if all we're doing is visual, I'd rather stay home and have a beer. I don't care. If it's only visual, that you see, when I would have guys apply for work as landscape architects with me, and they would show me their portfolios and reams of papers and everything. And at first I'd look at it and go, wow, that's pretty cool. And then I started to look at them with a critical eye, and it was sort of like, and start to question them on a few things. And then you look at it, you look at the grades, and you realize, this thing's like one-dimensional. And where's the rotating bloom? Where's the fragrance? Where's the structure? Where's the texture? Where's the blah blah blah? And you start asking those things and realize they don't know what you're talking about. Like, well, they kind of sort of know what you're talking about, but they didn't realize how wanting the plan was. And so I try to look at things 3D. So when I was a kid, I had one of those little I can't even remember what it's called, a Viewmaster. I should know that. I have a book called Viewmaster. But those things were great because they allowed me to see in 3D before 3D glasses and everything. But they were really beautiful. They had the two lenses you looked into and they crossed over. But I could take myself into Hansel and Gretel's cottage in the forest. And the big pine trees were massive trees. They were over top of me and around me and behind me. And I felt like I could reach out and touch them. And it took me there. And I used to actually get a little shoebox and I'd cut a hole in the top and put a piece of colored cellophane or something over the top, or sometimes just clear one. And I would cut a hole in the end, but I'd lift the lid off and I would create a little landscape inside there and put little fake trees and just little goofy little things, little plastic people and stuff. But I would create things from front to back, and then I'd put the lid on it, and then I'd hold it up to a light and look in through the end. And I started to appreciate the value of understanding depth perception. And that was huge, because now when I look at stuff, every time I look at stuff, I get that thought in my brain, okay, don't look at it visually. Allow it to go from the eye to the heart. And that enables you to evoke an emotional response. If you went to the Rocky Mountains and you looked at the Rocky Mountains and you said, yeah, that's pretty cool, wonder what's on TV. Or if you went to the most beautiful palm-lined crescent pink sand beach in the Bahamas you've ever seen in your life, you don't get off the boat and say, oh, that's pretty cool, wonder what's for lunch. You, as soon as it comes in view, you go, wow, that's awesome. That's spectacular. Wow, this is amazing. I've never seen that. That's awesome. It moves you. So you went beyond the visual. You evoked an emotional response with something as beautiful as this gorgeous creation that we have the privilege of inhabiting. But if you only do it for visual, you're missing out on so much. So having that experience as a kid has helped me to be able to view things at an emotional level as well, to go beyond the visual. Having said that, that's the world's worst thing to do from a business perspective, because everything I do is based on emotion. And I get myself in trouble so much, so many times. And my family keeps saying, Dad, why do you keep doing that? You know, you can't just keep on building and building and building. Yeah, it's awesome, it's spectacular, and you win awards and blah, blah, blah. But you didn't make any money on the job. Yeah, but it was really cool. Who cares? Well, you have to care some, but you also have to be able to do that and be fiscally responsible as well. So that's why if I had known about LMN years before and actually employed those techniques or something similar to that, I don't mean to take anything away from some of the other software providers that do offer that. It's like I mentioned before, I simply don't know about them. But if you know what your costs are and you understand the business aspect of it, you'll do very well. You'll make an extremely good living. But the best of it is you don't get to keep it all. If you want to keep going, you share that with your men. And they're not laborers, and they're not bodies, and they're not flunkies, or they're not guys. They're talented men. I took guys out of high school, and I did the whole I forget what do they call it when you take a course from school, you go and do a work program. What's it called?
I can't even think of that right now either. It's
anyway,
I can't.
You know what it is, and
Yeah.
they come and they spend 3 months working for your company, and the teacher comes and does an interview with them and on site and everything. I've done that, but in the course of doing that, I brought in my trainers so that every single one of my guys knew how to run an excavator. I'm not talking about a mini excavator. I'm talking about a 20, 30-ton excavator with a long stick and a wrist twist grading bucket or a tooth bucket. I'm talking about a large wheel loader with a 15,000-pound lifting capacity, big articulating wheel loader with quick attach forks, which automatically means now you have to also have the articulating wheel loader license as well as a forklift license, a mobile forklift or all-terrain forklift license. Same thing applies for a backhoe. As soon as you put the forks on it, that's a different license required. But a rubber-tired backhoe, four-wheel drive, extend a hoe, an articulating road grader, and it had like a 14-foot mold board on it. It was a great thing for certain things, but I didn't put all my guys in that because it's really hard. But a four-wheel drive tractor with a loader and a grading box on the back with a tilt forward, back, and right, left for berms and swales and stuff. But all my guys had their chance running them. I trained them personally myself, and then I paid to have them all certified. So they all had their wallet cards, and they all got certified, even the guys who were coming from school part-time. And you know what? Inevitably, those guys stayed on full-time with me and did their apprenticeship under me and got certified and got qualified and started their own businesses years later, and good on them. So I didn't have any laborers. Every single guy could jump in that 20-ton excavator and operate that thing while there's 6 of us trying to place a 15,000-pound boulder in a waterfall. And Buddy's up there, Rookie is up there running that machine because he's certified and he's properly trained by me. And we would be tweaking it, just moving it, just turn it 1 inch counterclockwise, guys. And guys got their palms of their hands on it, never fingers, because that's a good way to lose them. But everybody, we worked as safely as we could with all that kind of jazz. But all my guys were capable of doing all those things. And I had stonemasons and I had finished carpenters, I had post and beam guys, I had pool guys, all that kind of jazz. But like a dozen of us, we had the company to die for. We could do whatever we wanted. And I always, as I mentioned earlier, encourage my clients to dream big, because that saying about the customer is always right. Sometimes they need to be educated. And if somebody said, I've got $150,000, that's my budget, and I'm going to landscape my place for $150,000, and they want a tennis court, They want an in-ground swimming pool. They want a hot tub. They want berms. They want waterfalls, blah, 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 blah. And you're going, cha-ching, okay, so you're at $450,000 so far. And they say, no, 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 $150,000 budget. You say, okay, well, there's two ways to look at this. Number one, I would respectfully decline the project because it's impossible. You will find online, you'll find reams of guys who have never seen a $150,000 landscape job in their life. They'll jump all over that. And all I can say is buyer beware. Or you can take that $150,000 and you can apply that to phase one of your dream landscape. So we've done a $12,000 landscape design, and we've accommodated everything. You have expressed approval. You love it. We even did things you weren't even thinking of. You didn't even know to think about, and we incorporated them. And you go, that's an awesome idea. I love that. That's great. Okay. So we dream big. Imagine you won the lottery. You inherited a huge amount of money. You sold a corporation. Whatever happens, money doesn't matter. For everybody, money does matter. But in the design stage, you design to dreams and you build to priorities. And you take that $150,000 budget and you say, okay, what is your priority? And they say, well, we'd like to do the front of our new home. Okay, well, then let's take that budget. That's your financial comfort zone for 2022. Let's take that budget and let's apply that, and we'll call it phase one. And then I'll do a complete cost estimate and come out with, okay, so we're able to do this entire thing for $141,000. So that leaves you $9,000. So you can plant a bunch of the trees down your driveway. You want to have a maple line driveway or an oak line driveway or whatever, we got a bit left over to do that. Or conversely, it came at $159,000. So now we've got to either take those trees out or shrink the size of the plant material, or you have the option of upping the ante a little bit if you want to do that without really going beyond your financial comfort zone. And that way they're in control of, number one, what they're getting. They've designed to their absolute dreams, how much is it going to cost to get there, and what their priority is. So they're calling the shots. And you can allow them to do phase 1, 2, 3, 4. As I mentioned, I've got clients up to phase 8, and they never went beyond their financial comfort zone at any given time. And they were able to realize, so by the time you get to phase 2 or phase 3, phase 1 is mature and lush and looking gorgeous, because the first year they're making roots and they're in transplant shock. The second year, the first year they're in transplant shock, second year they're making roots, and the third year they explode. And that's how it goes. So after you get 4 or 5 years down the road, that's spectacular. But those people were able to do that and stay within their financial comfort zone all the time, because people have their own priorities. The kids go to university, we're going to Europe next year, and that's fine. What their financial situation is, none of my business. All I care about is, what are you wanting me to work to now? But don't tell me to design to your $150,000 budget now, because you're going to get plastic and aluminum siding and crap. That's what you're going to get for that budget. It's not realistic. You built a $4 million home, not me. So don't tell me you're going to landscape for $1.50. It's not going to happen. So usually by the time you get to that stage of the relationship, you don't have to talk to people like that. But occasionally you do. But if you have somebody that is talking $150,000, well, if you have anybody that's talking budget right up front, that's usually is a red flag, and that's typically not a good fit for me. If you're motivated by budget and dollars and cents, then inevitably that's not a good fit. But if people do it the way I just described, that typically will create a long-term working relationship for me and for my clients, and they will stand the test of time.
Randy, thank you so much for your time here today. I could listen to you for days upon days, so probably best we cut it off here to not eat up too much of your time today. Randy, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, to let us know everything that you've kind of talked about in this really wide-ranging interview. So thank you so much. Where can our audience go to learn more about you and anything else that you have? Where do you want to direct our audience to?
Go to info@randytumber.com, all lowercase, one word, and check out my website. I do speaking engagements all the time internationally. I do also have seminars that are online. One is called Successfully Integrating Water Features into the Landscape. And if you go on the Landscape Ontario website, or even on my website, you'll see that course that is available. And we're putting more courses. The more tech savvy I become, the more we're able to put more courses together, sort of thing, because I have got 50 years of passion and workable things, world class level that I want to share with people. I was just thinking about one client. He was about 45 years old, and he had changed careers mid-career a couple of years back before COVID, and taken horticulture. So I was teaching at a local college. And after my seminar, my 2.5 hour seminar was over, he came up with a bunch of other people and waited patiently till we were finished. And he said, "Randy, I need to learn where I can learn more about you. How can I find out what's going on in your head and your heart?" Because I took up horticulture because I thought, I'm sick and tired of the business world. I don't want to travel in those circles anymore. I see where it's getting me. I want to have a quality of life, and I love horticulture. But after attending this seminar, I realized that I love designing stuff. And I see what you showed me, the possibilities of what we can do. This is phenomenal. And I'm changing my career path again. I don't want to lay sod, and I don't want to cut grass, and I don't want to plant shrubs and flowers, and I want to design. I want to do really cool stuff. So you have changed my life. You've changed my career. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool to hear. I hope it's benefited the guy, and I continue to try to teach and share as much as I can, while still trying to glean a living out of it, of course. But I derive a great deal of satisfaction from seeing people start to develop an appreciation for this beautiful creation.
Randy, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Once again, if you want to hear more from Randy, check out that link in the show notes, as well as links to our sponsors here, InLight Outdoor Lighting. The link will be there, as well as Cycle CPA. So if you need outdoor lighting products, you should go ahead and follow them. InLight Design on Instagram. That's INLITE Design. Or go to the show notes for that link to see more of their products. And Cycle CPA, again, cyclecpa.com. Mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Get $200 off bookkeeping, accounting, and CFO services. And we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.